Thank you for joining this afternoon. Today, we are fortunate to have our guest speaker, Dr. Andrea Tricco. I know Andrea for many years now. She has been long-time THETA collaborator, worked with many of us in different projects and different circumstances. So Dr. Tricco is a scientist and director of the knowledge synthesis team in the knowledge translation program, Shing Knowledge Institute at St. Mike's Hospital, Unity Health, Toronto. She's an associate professor at the University of Toronto in the Dalla School of Public Health and HPME. She is co-director and adjunct associate professor for the Queen's Collaboration for Healthcare Quality GBI Center of Excellence at Queen's University, and the nominated PI of the CIHR Strategy for Patient-Oriented Research Evidence Alliance. And I think this is what we are going to hear today. It's very exciting. So thank you. Welcome, Andrea. So you can start.
Great. Thank you so much. It's an absolute pleasure for me to be here today, and thank you so much for the invitation. So today I'll be speaking with you about a pan-Canadian initiative that we've been working on since 2017. So it's the SPOR Evidence Alliance. There we go. So I would like to acknowledge the land on which our central coordinating office is located on. So it's land now called Toronto or Toronto. It's the traditional territory of many groups. So Mississaugas of the Credit and Chippewa, Ojibwe, and the Anishinaabe, as well as the Haudenosaunee and the Wendat. And would like to say that I am a white settler on this land, and I'm incredibly grateful and humbled to be able to work on this land. And also would like to honor the elders and knowledge keepers, past and present. And I am personally committed to continuing to learn and respect the history and culture of the communities that have come before and presently reside here. So I have taken the Sanya's Indigenous training, as well as the University of Alberta Indigenous Canada training, and still trying to learn more, and would highly encourage everyone else to do that self-reflective exercise, and as we all try to work towards reconciliation and in partnership. So in terms of my competing interests, so I do receive a stipend as an associate editor for the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology. I've received stipends from Monash University, as well as from the Canadian Agency for Drugs and Technology in Health to give portions of this presentation. It's kind of an amalgamation of different workshops and webinars that I've given in the past. Also, I hold a Tier 2 Canada Research Chair in Knowledge Synthesis and several grants to advance the science of knowledge synthesis and knowledge translation. And I also am the nominated principal investigator of the SPOR Evidence Alliance, which I'm speaking about today. So you can take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm very biased about this initiative because I'm the NPI and I would obviously believe strongly in it. Also, in terms of other competing interests, I do sit on a number of other journals as unpaid, either as an associate editor unpaid or members of their editorial board. So today I'll give you a little introduction on the SPOR Evidence Alliance, our key functions and milestones, the query response service that we provide. That's probably our largest or main function, some training and capacity development, ideas and innovation. And then if we have time, I'll give you some tips on patient engagement. So the SPOR Evidence Alliance, so this was, we received $7.63 million from CIHR, and we received another, I would say, I'm trying to think about the recent estimates, but probably around that same amount in matched and in-kind funds, maybe a little bit more. So maybe closer to $10 million of matched and in-kind funds. And this really is a partnership between researchers, patients and the public, healthcare providers, and health system decision makers. And our mission is to promote a Canadian health system increasingly informed and continuously improved using scientific evidence. So everything we do is advanced by the science, so evidence-informed methods in everything that we do. So we try to maintain rigor with all that we do. However, that being said, we have to balance that with practicality because everything that we do is for decision makers and conducted with them. And our research environment is promoting inclusiveness, respect, and collaboration. So those are some of our key principles that guide us in everything that we do. So our key activities include the research query service. So this is where we have research teams across Canada. So we have more than 20 teams. They have expertise in knowledge synthesis. So that would be things like systematic reviews, rapid reviews, scoping reviews, network meta-analysis. We actually have expertise in 41 plus different types of knowledge synthesis, clinical practice guidelines, as well as knowledge translation and implementation. So we have these teams on standby across Canada that are waiting to respond to queries that are submitted by decision makers. We also provide training and skills development. So this is not only for trainees and for researchers and research staff, but also for patient and public partners and for policymakers and all of the different knowledge user partners that we work with. And we do have a focus on promoting and advancing the science of the different key activities that we're working on. So who are the people that we work with? So we call them end users, or knowledge users. And the three categories are usually patient and public partners, healthcare providers, and policymakers. So healthcare providers, these would be clinicians, allied health professionals. So this could be anything from a pharmacist to a psychiatrist to a nurse. So basically people who would have that clinical or content expertise. And then policymakers is very broad as well. So that would be even including managers of hospitals or clinics who would have decisions on a wide range of the population, or even policymakers at the government, so provincial or federal level. And the goal is that we want to engage all of these categories of knowledge users in each study. So this is something that we heavily promote in our SPOR Evidence Alliance initiative. So we do have examples, and I'll show you one where we have papers where we have clinicians, we have policy decision makers, patient partners, and trainees and researchers and research staff, all as co-authors. And so you can understand, or maybe you can understand what it would take to get all those differing opinions together and for everyone to agree and for everyone to be co-authors on that paper. And just to say that we like to use the term knowledge user, even though stakeholder is more simple and people understand that, knowledge user is more inclusively and culturally safe. So that's the term that we like to use. So when I talk about patients, what do I mean? So the definitions that we use for SPOR come from CIHR. So there are many different terms internationally for this. So patient and public involvement, that's in the UK, or consumer and community involvement in Australia. Those are just to give you flavor of different terminology. But when we say patient, it really is overarching, and it's inclusive of anyone who has personal experience of a health issue, including their informal caregivers, including family and friends. So in this example, all of us at some point have been a patient, and all of us would have different lived experience with the health system. And when we talk about patient engagement, this is really meaningful collaboration. So patients become partners in everything that we do. So from governance to setting our priorities, to developing the research questions, and even performing parts of the research. And patient-oriented research is a continuum of research that engages patients as partners. So it focuses on patient-centric priorities and improves patient outcomes individually and in communities with a focus on vulnerable populations. And this is conducted by multidisciplinary teams in partnership with relevant knowledge user. And at the end of the day, the aim is to apply the knowledge generated to improve healthcare systems and practices. So very, very broad is patient-oriented research. A bit more focused is patient engagement, and then who we're engaging with would be patients, their family and friends, their informal caregivers, and we also include the public, members of the public as well. Depending on the topic, we have to match them appropriately. So why is this so important? Well, evidence shows that 50% of patients don't get treatments that are proven to be effective. Sometimes they get 25% will get care that's not needed or even harmful. And so we spend a lot per person on our healthcare. So patients and clinicians have a right to expect that important health decisions are made on the basis of evidence. And so CIHR had the vision to introduce SPOR in 2011, and this was to really improve health systems and practices to ensure the right patient receives the right intervention at the right time. So this is our foundational principles that we use for the SPOR Evidence Alliance when it comes to patient and public engagement. So respect and equity, so diversity, authenticity, integrity, and confidentiality. So the things that our patient and public partners are sharing with us are highly personal. We have to respect that. There could be some stigma associated with whatever they're facing or whatever they've been through, and there could be some trauma there as well. So we have to maintain highest and strictest confidentiality, and we really have to follow the lead to make sure that we are keeping our patient and public partners safe. There has to be trust, so transparency and honesty, and there also has to be empowerment, so shared decision-making, ownership, flexibility. We have to learn as researchers and scientists to be flexible, to be open to new ideas. Coming from a growth mindset is incredibly important, and everyone here at the table has something to contribute. And also we need institutional support. So something simple as providing our patient and public partners with appropriate acknowledgement through appreciation. So perhaps providing them a living wage or providing them with other types of forms of payment. We have to make sure that these institutional structures are in place before we begin this work. And some engagement best practices include research training and education, role clarity, matching the partners and the community, very important, making sure that you are providing compensation and that you're budgeting for this appropriately for all activities, evaluating your work, so making sure, number one, that you're not doing any harm, and reinforcing the engagement activities and outcomes. Thinking about what type of a model are you going to use? Are you going to have patient partners embedded in each project? Will you have more kind of like a family or patient and public advisory council? So those are things to think through. How the research communications will go, and setting timeframes and giving expectations around that, as well as meetings. And then how will you sustain the engagement and reinforce it? And this has to be conducted across all stages of the research is what is recommended. However, that being said, sometimes you may only be able to engage with patient and public partners at specific points of the process. That's completely okay. You will just have to report that transparently. And so this is based on a publication by Harrison and colleagues. So for further reading, I would definitely recommend you read that paper. It's a very good model and very good foundational framework for all the work that we do. And so some people ask, what's the point of doing patient and public or community engagement? It's a lot of time and energy to do this. I don't want to sugarcoat that for you. It takes something to do this work very, very well. We don't want to be tokenistic, and we want to make sure that people are being fully engaged in everything that we do. So I often get asked kind of what's the point? Well, this is a systematic review and meta-analysis of more than 130 studies. And so what they found is that they found statistically significant positive impacts of community engagement when it comes to health behaviors, health consequences, participant self-efficacy, as well as social support. So it is a very effective method for many, many different outcomes. What I will say, though, is what we don't necessarily know yet is what the dosage would be, what combination of interventions, should it be lay delivered or whatnot. There's some, we see that there could be some trends here with some interventions being more effective than others. However, that's definitely worth teasing that out in the future. So in terms of the SPOR Evidence Alliance, a little bit about our journey. So we were funded in 2017 with a 5-year operating grant. And then in 2018, our query service intake process went live. We also developed an asset map of more than 100 Canadian guideline developers. That's available on our website. So definitely check that out if that is of interest to your work. And just to say that that asset map was used in an article published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. So it has been used for secondary research as well. And we established our governance structure. In 2019, we opened our annual seed grant. So if there are any supervisors on the webinar here today, or trainees, so PhD students, postdoctoral fellows, and early career researchers, highly recommend that you apply for the annual seed grant. It provides you with $10,000 to advance different methods projects. And I'll give you a flavor of those in a few slides. We released our patient and public appreciation policy. This was co-created. So everything that we do is co-created with our patient and public partners. So we released that. We also accept topics that come from patient and public partners. So that intake and recruitment of topics was launched in 2019, and also membership registration open. So we offer, we welcome everyone with open arms. If anyone is on the line here, very interested in joining us, it's really, everyone's allowed to be a member. There's no cost to it. And all of the advantages to being a member are listed on our website. In 2020, we rapidly developed a rapid COVID response. So this was to support decision maker evidence needs provincially, nationally, and internationally. And many different resources were prepared for the research teams to help support this important work. In 2021, we developed a course on training our patient and public partners. And so that was co-led by 2 patient partners. And then we also funded 3 patient-driven or patient co-led projects. And then in 2022, we published in the Facets Journal a series of papers, and we received additional funding from CIHR for 18 months. So just to show you the leadership of the SPOR Evidence Alliance, so we've been, we've tried to include people across the country with different levels of expertise and also with different levels of experience. I don't have my 3 patient partner leads here, but just to say that from the West, that I have Janet Gunderson, from the West, from the West, we have Janet Gunderson, from the East, we have Linda Wilhelm, and then from Central, we also have Maureen Smith. So their lovely photos are not here, but just to say that patient and public partners are included in our leadership, and they are principal knowledge users on our grant. In terms of our committees, so this is our governance structure. We have six of those, and this includes 62 members, and 13 patient partners are embedded across the various committees. And we currently have 4 co-chairs serving in the structure, and all the different committees have various functions. So as an example, they've helped us with our communication, so content on our website, also helping refining our vision and mission statements. Our governance was included in our series of papers in the Facets Journal. They also have helped with an infographic on how to disseminate knowledge. They've helped us co-create policies, so our patient partner appreciation policy, conflict of interest policy, and they've helped quite a bit with our processes. So every single work plan and budget that comes through the SPOR Evidence Alliance is peer reviewed by one of our committees. And so you'll see in a couple slides that there's been a lot of projects that we've done. So everything is peer reviewed to make sure we have the highest quality of science. So very active with that. And also something that's unique to the SPOR Evidence Alliance is that we share our money. So when research teams do the projects, we actually give them funding to make sure, funding and support to make sure that they're able to provide high quality products for decision making. So we've received quite a bit of support and advice from our governance structure in terms of other things such as our Indigenous peoples engagement, seed grant competition process, as well as our membership registration process, to name a few. So here's a little snapshot of our patient partner appreciation, and here's the link for it. This was co-developed with patient and public partners and is being used internationally because not all appreciation policies are co-developed or co-created with the end user. So if this would be something relevant to your research, definitely check this out. So since the launch of our query services, we've received 247 requests and we've responded to 216. So if you want to know more about our inclusive query process, we created a nice little video, 5 minutes. I don't have time to share it with you today, but here's the link at the bottom of the screen, and definitely check that out. It's a nice, simple way describing our query process. So the one process focuses on health system decision makers. So these are requests submitted by government predominantly, and also submitted by healthcare providers. So it has to be useful for a decision, basically. So if you're asking for evidence, we have to know what decision is this evidence being used for. If it's a guideline, of course, we need to know like which guideline body will be using or needing our support with the guideline. And then if it's knowledge translation, again, for everything we do, it can't come from researchers, it can't come from trainees. It really has to come from health system decision makers. So that's how we focus the eligibility. And just to say, I know many researchers are, clinicians and researchers at the same time, and that would qualify because I know we wear many different hats oftentimes as researchers. So the research proposal is co-developed by the team and decision maker. And so this is the infrastructure that CIHR has invested in. So the teams are provided with all kinds of capacity building, so patient engagement webinars that we have ongoing coaching. So as I said, we have 20 plus teams across the country. So I will, give coaching to them, coaching, to the research staff, and we provide them with training as well, and resources that I'll be talking about a little later in the presentation. And all of our knowledge products and tools are tailored to the needs of our decision makers. So we're trying to make it very relevant and practical, but at the same time, make sure that we use very high quality methodological standards. So this, what we are trying to do, and you've heard me say co-creation many times now. So our definition is the collaborative generation of knowledge by academics working alongside knowledge users from other sectors. So this is from Dr. Greenhall and colleagues' paper. The spirit of co-creation is to invite multidisciplinary and diverse knowledge users as equal members of the research team. We are producing research alongside. Everyone has a sense of shared ownership. And by working towards together, the sum is greater than the parts. So if I was to do this project by myself, it wouldn't be as good, basically. So here on the right is kind of our holy grail. This was conducted through the SPOR Evidence Alliance. So we did a systematic review. On this paper, we have 4 co-authors that are from the Public Health Agency of Canada. We have a patient partner who's a co-author. We have 2 trainees, and we have 2 clinicians, so 2 geriatricians who work in this area, older adults and social isolation. So, and then we also have research staff on here and researchers. So as you can see, this is what we're trying to get to. This is probably one paper that I'm most proud of the 300 plus papers that I have. It's not in the most highest impact journal. That being said, I know what it took to bring all of those individuals together with all those different perspectives and to negotiate and to come together to make a product that is so much greater than if I was to do this on my own. That's so much more relevant. And this was used for policy decision-making for Public Health Agency of Canada. So since 2018, we have provided services to 50 different decision-making organizations at the local, national, and international level. And we have established collaborations and partnerships with 200 plus knowledge users. There are many different reasons that these knowledge users have come to the SPOR Evidence Alliance for our services. So the majority was to inform public health measures, followed by informing healthcare system arrangements and clinical management or guidelines. So that gives you a flavor of the types of questions that we've been answering with the SPOR Evidence Alliance. So 46 of these were led by an early career researcher, and 71 included 119 graduate students and trainees. So this is something that we're incredibly passionate about, is not only providing our trainees and early career researchers with opportunities for learning for their own growth and professional development, but also giving them hands-on training. So they are, we include them in all of our projects and everything that we do. We include them in our governance structure. And so So basically every task that we do, we always ensure that we don't forget about the next generation of scientists. And our co-creation model resulted in more than 200 decision-making engagements and 200 plus patient and public partnerships. And we've disseminated our findings in many different forms. So some examples are provided here. So during COVID, we received 50 plus requests, and oftentimes we did rapid reviews within 5 to 10 business days, and all of those we engaged patient and public partners as much as we could. And just to say that we did collaborate with another CIHR funded initiative, COVID End, and that each work plan and budget, we completed 40 plus projects through COVID End. The SPOR Evidence Alliance teams did, and I personally reviewed all those work plans and budgets. So I'm not a co-author on any of those projects, unless it's an area of interest or makes sense for me to be a co-author, but I review all the work plans and budgets to make sure that everything makes sense. And again, trying to promote good science. And everything is available on our website, and including naming the patient and public partners that participated. Again, for that, we would ask them, because as I was saying in that framework about confidentiality, so we would ask them if they would like to be acknowledged, if they would like to be a co-author, if they would like to be named, and if they agree, we would include them as a co-author if they fulfill ICMJ criteria, or as an acknowledgement. Whatever they are happy with is what we do. So now I'm going to get into something that we're just incredibly excited about. So this is the patient co-led process. So research topics are submitted by patients and public partners. And then what we do is we actually do phone calls with them. We do interviews. We find out what question do they need to answer for their own care. Okay. And then we make sure that there's no duplication in those questions. And we do quite a bit of working with the patient and public partner to refine that into a researchable question. Then when we have those set of questions, we do literature searches on them. We make sure that, a systematic review doesn't already exist as an example. If it does exist, we write a one-page lay summary, and we share that with the patient and public partner who submitted that. Then the ones that have not been done before, just to make sure that we are not having any research waste, the ones that are unique and have not been done before, we prioritize those. So we have a panel of patient partners, clinicians, policymakers, researchers, and trainees, and we use kind of a rapid James Lind Alliance approach to prioritize these. And then the projects that have been selected, those move forward, and the patient and public partner becomes the co-lead of those projects. So they work with the research team. They actually select a research team. They develop a work plan, which is like a proposal, a budget, and then they also invite other knowledge users to join those projects. And the patient partners are provided with capacity building. So we give them courses, we give them resources, and again, coaching and guidance. So in our first round of patient and public partners, we received 11 topics, and of those 3 are now being co-led by patient and public partners alongside researchers. It's on the next slide, so I'll show you those topics. And just to say, over the summer that we received 87, so huge success topics, and that CIHR was very generous and that they are funding 20 of these, because it's very hard to get funding for patient and public partners to co-lead research. So 20 will be funded. So within the next 2 years, we'll have 20 of these projects that were co-led by patient and public partners. Very excited about that. Here are the 3 projects that we prioritize. So one of them is writing lay summaries. So what is the evidence behind writing lay summaries? So Joanne Mosel is our amazing patient and public partner. And we have Dr. Cahoon, who is our scientist, our researcher lead. So they are both co-leading that project. Another one is looking at alternatives to institutional care for older people. This topic is being co-led by Elliot Post-Jensen, along with Dr. Moody, who's from Dalhousie University. And then finally, we have trauma-informed care practices to support caregivers. This one is being led by Bev Pomeroy, and who's a patient and public partner, and then Dr. Jib, who's a scientist, and she's with the Hospital for Sick Children. So this gives you a flavor of the highly impactful topics, and these teams are currently working on this and we've learned a lot of lessons from them, and so we've refined our process based on this, and now we're using that to extend it to 20 plus projects that will be prioritized from the 87 topics that we received over the summer. So I'm going to switch gears and talk a bit about training and capacity development. So we have letter supported 148 learning opportunities, and we've reached more than 3,300 learners. So we do like many different things. So we do online training, workshops, lectures or webinars. We teach post-secondary courses, thesis supervision, mentorship, and then our seed grant as well. So we have reached many learners, and those learners include researchers, research staff, early career researchers, trainees, policy decision makers, and patient and public partners. So here's our seed grant competition winners. So huge congratulations to all these superstars. So here you're seeing, all their different projects that they've been worked on. And so these are the projects that won the seed grant. And so every year we invite them to present at the Knowledge Translation Canada webinar. So the one by Dr. Fazli, as well as Ms. George, will be presented, I think next week, actually. So check that out if you're interested in joining to hear about their research. Also to say Dr. Henry, who was our 2020 winner, we invited him to submit a conference abstract to the Guidelines International Network Conference, and he was accepted. So I had the pleasure of being in attendance at the GIN meeting, International GIN meeting, where he presented his research as well. And I should mention that we will be hosting this again next year. So please, when you see the call for submissions, please do submit and please participate in that. We're always looking to fund amazing trainees and early career researchers. Something we're incredibly proud of is our course for patient and public partners. So this was a 3-week course. It was co-developed and co-designed and co-led by two patient partners, Maureen Smith and Janet Gunderson, who are just amazing, incredibly inspiring individuals that we get the opportunity to work with every day. So we had 24 participants across Canada. We had a 96 response rate on the course evaluation, and it was very highly rated. So this specifically was focused on rapid reviews because we were getting an influx of rapid review demand during COVID, as you can imagine. And to date, 24 graduates have been matched to at least one project since June 2021. So not only do we do the course and train the patients up, but then we match them up and make sure that they all get that hands-on experience of being involved with the different research teams. We just finished our 4-week course. This time we expanded it beyond rapid reviews and did one on knowledge synthesis, because our patient and public partners are engaging in network meta-analysis, overviews of reviews, systematic reviews, scoping reviews, et cetera, et cetera. So we felt that we needed to give them some hands-on training on knowledge synthesis in general. Again, this was co-led by Maureen Smith and Janet Gunderson. And we had 23 participants, and course evaluations are currently underway. So when it comes to ideas and innovation, we've co-created 10 policies and templates with knowledge users. We've provided more than 100 coaching calls for our more than 20 teams, and we've peer reviewed more than 200 protocols and oftentimes final reviews for the project. So we've been very, very busy trying to advance the science of everything that we do. So during COVID, we wrote a paper. So this was a collaborative effort by many members of the SPOR Evidence Alliance and beyond, thinking about rapid review methods. So this was published in the Journal of Clinical Epidemiology. And so some unique challenges that we saw during COVID included closely involving decision makers. So in particular, frontline workers who had that clinical insight that we needed for our rapid reviews. And they were so busy actually, providing care during the pandemic that it was very challenging for them to come on board and be part of our project. So we provide some brainstorming and ideas and solutions in the paper. Also, the urgency of the request. So this is when, I remember in March 2020 that the WHO was calling me beginning of March and saying, we need a rapid review of the literature in 24 hours. And I said, well, can we get you something in 5 days? Because all of our rapid reviews start with a literature search and we involve a librarian. And so we talk about some solutions about that. How do you find all the relevant evidence? This is when, we had to start searching those different listservs, and sometimes we had to search social media and all those preprint servers as well. So it was a very big challenge, more than ever, trying to get all the relevant information out there. Also trying to interpret results when direct evidence didn't exist. So at the beginning of the pandemic, when we did some work for Public Health Agency of Canada and Health Canada, we actually included SARS and MERS. So we included the broader COVID family of illness because we just didn't have enough evidence. But then, of course, there was just an explosion. So then we had to very quickly limit it to COVID. And then, as the pandemic went on, we even had to limit it to the past couple months because the studies and the results change so rapidly. And then how do you share your results widely? So just posting them on our website, which we do, is not enough. So social media campaigns and making sure the right people get the evidence in their hand at the right time. And then this is also came the demand for living reviews. So how do we update this on a continuous basis? So we provide quite a few solutions in this paper, but this is the type of thing that we do with the SPOR Evidence Alliance in terms of trying to advance science and methods. We also developed the Right Review tool. So this is freely available. So what this does is you answer a series of simple questions, and we're able to match this up with an appropriate method from 41 different methods. So definitely check this out, freely available. Just to say that my colleague Barbara Klein has received funding from the UK to move this to the next level. So she's currently doing a Delphi on our Right Review tool, and that will be further refined. And then after that, my colleague, Dr. Munn from Adelaide, Australia, he received some funding from Australia to do the next iteration of the tool. So we kind of did this Right Review tool on the side of our desks, but then our international colleagues were successful in getting funding to move this forward. So something very exciting. Also, we have been working on an AI tool, and a shout out to Pham, who is also part of THETA. He's been instrumental in the AI program and the AI collaborations and research that we've been working on. So this is a collaborative team from Unity Health, University of Waterloo, and Toronto Metropolitan University. And Ba was instrumental, Dr. Pham, in us receiving a Canadian Foundation of Innovation. So huge shout out to Dr. Pham. And this tool has been offered to some of the SPOR Evidence Alliance teams. So basically when the literature is so vast, which is happening more and more because our literature is exploding, then we would provide them with this tool so that we can rapidly complete those projects while still maintaining quality results. Just to say, if this sounds of interest to you, definitely check out our series of papers in the Facets Journal. We go into several dynamics of the SPOR Evidence Alliance and different functions, and share quite a few learnings that we've had along the way. So I think I have a few minutes. I'll keep this brief. I just wanted to spend a bit of time talking about the top 10 things that we've learned when it comes to patient engagement. So one thing to say is just that we need to make sure that our teams and our researchers are very well informed. So if we're doing this work, we need to make sure that we have cultural safety training ourselves personally. Also, we have to be trained in trauma-informed approaches because we need to create a safe space for our patient and public partners to engage with us. Also effective co-creation and resources on engagement. So making sure that we have the tools to do a good job and make sure that it's not tokenistic when we're engaging with patient and public partners. Also providing training to our patient and public partners. So providing them with an overview of the research process. And just to let you know that the expectation is not that they're scientists and methodologists now. I get asked this question a lot. It sounds self-explanatory, but that's not our expectation. They are contributing to the project because they bring lived experience. So they are encountering our health system on a daily basis. They know more about our health system than even the practitioners in the health system. So they're coming to us with their lived experience. And we also have to provide them guidance on their role, the expectations, and in particular, when they're co-leading our projects. So we have to do a better job as researchers to create a safe space. So co-create your principles, terms of reference for that research project. We have a self-reflective exercise on power and oppression. This is on the SPOR Evidence Alliance website under resources for researchers. Definitely check that out if that would be of interest. And at the end of the day, your job as the lead of the project is to make sure everyone has a voice. Oops. So then also we want to make sure that you provide support. So you want to make sure the patient engagement begins before the question has even been conceptualized. You need time to develop relationships. You want to engage more than one patient per project if you can. That's something they call the only lonely patient or the lonely only patient. So you want to try to avoid that, and unless of course they're very, very experienced and confident, and they may already have those relationships, then they might be okay. Again, this all has to be driven by patient and public partners and what their preferences are. Discuss compensation acknowledgement at the beginning. If they're giving you their lived experience, then they're engaging in all phases, then they would most likely fulfill the ICMJE criteria. However, they may not want to be an author, so you have to ask them that. And find ways to bring the patient voice closer to policy decision making. So one thing that we learned by Dr. Maureen Dobbins, working with her with the NCCMT, is that we have a little section on the patient interpretation of evidence in our executive summary as an example. Include a liaison person to communicate with patient partners. It takes a lot of time and energy. Oftentimes we have meetings, pre-meetings before the meetings. We try to bring our patient and public partners to our meetings with policy decision makers. So you want to make sure that you have someone on your team who has that capacity and they are the go-to contact person for the team. Include diversity of partnerships and viewing any disagreements or discussions or conflict as an opportunity for your growth. And so you have to come to this work with a growth mindset, and also that it will lead to better science. So you want to evaluate your patient engagement. As I said, you want to make sure you do no harm. Think of this as an opportunity for continuous improvement, and you can use appropriate tools to evaluate your patient and public partnerships. So I didn't have time to get into that today, but just to say that there are tools out there, validated tools. We often use the peers. That is by Dr. Cleon Hamilton and Dr. Linda Lee. They developed an amazing tool, so definitely look into that. Find opportunities for patients to submit topics and co-lead projects. We need to do more of this work, this very impactful work. And so the highest level is empower and for them to actually hold the funding. Report on your patient engagement. So there's the GRIP2 reporting checklist. Again, that is a useful tool to report how you engaged with patient and public partners. Also, embedding equity, diversity, inclusion in all that you do. So we bake this into our protocols, so our work plan and budget templates. So again, if you look into the SPOR Evidence Alliance website, you'll see that. So definitely look at that. And then sometimes our patient and public partners are not diverse. So make sure that you engage with diverse groups. And then lastly, one of my jobs as the lead of the SPOR Evidence Alliance is to provide the teams with tools, excuse me, to make the research process easier. So I want to give them with all the tools, streamline the process so that they can focus on very good engagement and co-creation and not getting bogged down with the process. So that's our Right Review tool, our AI tool, as I mentioned. And, you know, even if you're not part of the SPOR Evidence Alliance as a researcher, we provide everything on our website freely available. So templates for protocols, budgets, reports, checking in with decision makers, how to do patient and public engagement. We have all of our webinars on there as well. This webinar will probably be on there after the link has been shared. So you'll see everything that we do, we try to include. And again, it's for everyone's learning and capacity building. So before I end, I do want to thank many different people. So Dr. Don Richards, Dr. Amanda Doherty-Kirby, Catherine and Cy, Annette, Dr. Sharon Strauss, and Linda. I've been incredibly fortunate to work with amazing people, as well as Maureen Smith and Janet Gunderson, who are just amazing and incredible. And then also a huge shout out to my central team. So none of this work would be possible without the amazing team that we have. So huge shout out to everyone, and in particular our manager Wasifa Zarin, who has stuck with me for 8 years, and she does a lot of work behind the scenes, and not always acknowledged, fully acknowledged for everything that she does. So I fully acknowledge her today, and to say that we are very thankful for the generous support of CIHR. And yeah, I think that means we have time for a few questions. So shall I stop my share?
That's okay. They may have questions from the slides, so we can just keep it for now.
Perfect.
But, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
My pleasure. It's a pleasure.
So much work. So much, like,
it's been a lot.
I mean, yeah, like so much. I mean, you created, you and your team created like amazing work, important work. So I think we'll open up for questions from others, or we'll give them a minute to think.
Sure. Did you have any questions for me?
I have multiple questions, but I
okay. We'll start with one of yours.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with one.
Yeah.
I guess I just want to talk about the prioritization. Like, I've gone through some of those, like they are very hard.
Yeah.
I mean, from 87, you went to 20. Just maybe talk a bit about the experience of that one.
Yeah, so we haven't done that yet. So we've gone from 11 to 3. So we did that last year. So we had the panel. And so how I said that, we did like, we had interviews with the patient and public partners who submitted the topics. Then we did lit searches to see, because part of our initiative is trying to reduce research waste and not duplicate what's already been done. So then we had to do literature searches and work with our librarian to see if it's ever been done before, and then screening and all that. And then if it's been done, we do a lay summary for the patient and public partners, so that for their own learning. And then the ones that proceed, then what we would do is we have like a kickoff call with a panel. So we have to recruit a panel of 20-25 people across Canada with various experiences. So policy decision makers, patient partners, researchers, trainees, like the whole gambit. We include everyone. And then we do a couple rounds of online. So e-survey, kind of a Delphi or nominal group technique. Yeah. So we do a couple rounds of that. And then we have an in-person meeting to vote on the top. Like we use the couple rounds to see which ones kind of have fallen off that were not high priority. And then we have like an in-group moderated Delphi, usually moderated by me, to come up with which ones will be selected. And then the ones, so we did that with the 11 topics, and then we selected 3, and then those 3 went on, and the patient partner actually selected what researcher they wanted to work with. So if they had pre-existing relationships, which is really lovely. And then they become this like team. And I think we have it on the SPOR Evidence Alliance. We had a fireside chat at our annual general meeting with those pairs that I showed on one of the slides. And it was just incredible, like the learnings, and it's really a different type of project. And you just learn so much. Like I always say, my inspiration is the patient and public partners, and I learn from them every single day. So yeah, does that kind of answer your question in terms of the process? Yeah.
I know it's long, it's not easy. Come with different, their own agenda, but I mean, amazing you have been able to do that. We have a question from one of our attendees. I think it's Ariba. I can read this, Ariba, if you are okay.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Thank you for the great talk, Dr. Tricco. I was wondering if there are any collaborations with PCORI, which has similar goals and visions.
Yeah, so no, thank you for that. So because PCORI, they are funding more American organizations than Canadian. So we haven't applied for anything with PCORI, but I have seen, you know, patient co-led projects and that type of thing, like through their announcements. So if anyone has experience with PCORI and wants to submit something, let me know and we can do that together. But so far, you know, the majority of our funding has been coming from CIHR, and this is under the SPOR initiative. So it is really an enterprise. It's multi tens of millions and hundreds of millions of investment of the Canadian government. So there might be some similarities with PCORI and SPOR, but like the SPOR Evidence Alliance is just a small part of the SPOR enterprise. So I think that PCORI question is more, what are the overlaps between PCORI and SPOR? And I think that there would be some, although like I don't have as much experience with applying to them or working with PCORI. And then also to say that the UK has their own, you know, pool of funding and their own like patient and public involvement as well. So because we're in Canada, we are part of the SPOR enterprise or the SPOR family. And so we would follow whatever mandate that they have. Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that was your question slide.
Yeah. And just to say that, you know, I love hearing from people. So if people are shy today and they don't want to ask a question today, here's my email, or you can send me a note, instant message through Twitter is totally fine, and love to hear from you. So, you know, don't feel that today's the only opportunity to ask me anything. Yeah, you can contact me anytime.
So I guess maybe a question that maybe people have in their mind, like how, like when you become, what does it mean to become a collaborator, or like you said, you know, reviewer, or be part of this big enterprise?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yeah, so we have online, we have become a member or get involved. So you can put yourself forward for that. And it's just a quick online form, simple 5-minute form that you fill out, and you could say how you would like to get involved. Like, do you want to be on a governance committee? Do you want to be a peer reviewer for the SEET grant? Do you want to lead a project? So, you know, like anyone can lead a project. And like I said, we share the funding with you. So if you have a team that does rapid reviews, as an example, within an area, I can absolutely consider you and add you to the list of teams. And then when we have a topic that comes in that would be of interest, like I would be trying to match that topic with teams. And then also to say that, like, if a project comes in from the BC government, we try to usually find a team in BC to kind of do that project. So we try to do build local relationships as much as possible. So you would just write on the form how you want to get involved, and the commitment is really up to you. And trainees can get involved as well. Usually we ask trainees if they do want to join, that their supervisor joins as well, because then that gives them access to the SEET grant, as an example. And then, yeah, like if you haven't heard back from people, just send me a note, and then I'll make sure that, you know, you're getting engaged the right way, because sometimes things get lost through the cracks. And yeah, I'll know you personally. I may not.
I mean, generally, yeah. So I was asking for myself, but generally, because I know many people who do systematic reviews, and I think being part of a bigger team sometimes, I mean, most of the time, help you to embrace, like, you know, new methods.
Yes.
Make sure you're on top of things, you're doing things right. So the benefit with those engagements.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I appreciate that question and 100% agree. So yeah, so if anyone here today or anyone listening to the recording is interested, then just please reach out and put that on your form. And if you haven't heard back, you can reach out to me personally. Yeah.
Thank you. So seems like a audience. There are no questions from the audience.
Okay, that's okay.
I mean, I have one more quick question, maybe just very quick.
Sure. Yes, I love it. Keep going.
You have a slide when you talk about different types of questions you are answering, and I think it says public health measures.
Yeah.
Most of them, is it because of the COVID? This is like how it happened, or what does it mean?
Yeah, I mean, even like before COVID, there may have been some public health measure type of questions coming in, but definitely during COVID, like we're doing all these living reviews in collaboration with COVID and for Public Health Agency of Canada. So things such as masking, ventilation, like there's all kinds of, I think we have 7 or 8 topics where it's all public health measures and helping inform the Public Health Agency of Canada for all their guidance and guidelines that they're setting you know, we also help them with NACI, so the National Advisory Committee on Immunizations. We've done several projects for them through the SPOR Evidence Alliance. So things like the vaccination in children. And so that was by Dr. Lisa Hartling. And so there's a lot of different teams that are through this, and that we would share the opportunities and the funding and the recognition. So yeah.
I think that explains. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But that was a good question. Good catch. Yeah.
Thank you. I think I'm one of those who is like very interested in this whole talk anyways. And us learning to work with patients, right? So it's
it's been, like I
new
said,
journey. So
yeah, it's been one of the most rewarding rewarding experience that I've ever had in my professional life, has been working with patient and public partners. And there's such an inspiration, and what they do is just so challenging, and yet they do it to better the health system, you know? So yeah, it's just incredible. And I think there was a question about sharing the slides, and I'm happy to send a PDF afterwards for people who would like to have access to the slides.
Yeah, slides. And I think the talk will be available, right, Ida?
Yeah.
Yes, we can make that available to anybody who'd like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they will see it completely. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Louisine, for inviting me. And thank you, Ida, for all of your support and everything. And yeah, I hope to hear from the audience, and I hope to see an uptick in our membership after the talk today. So love to, and hope to have a chance to collaborate with everyone.
Yes, and we hope to have you back also next year, just to see, like, you know, because there are like so many areas, right? Just maybe dive into one area. You are getting thank yous from the notes, so like notes, so people
thank you. I would love to come back, and if there was an area that you felt would be for me to whittle down and really focus on, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, your last few slides were very important, actually. Those are the ones that are
yes, thank you. Yeah, the resources.
No, like working with patients, like just really how to work, ensure you meet all these points when you engage.
Absolutely agree with you. Yeah, great, excellent. Thank you.